Really? We're doing this again? It feels like we just did this. Actually, sir, it's been like 2 months. Sorry. Anyway. My name is... Actually, sir, you can't say your name. Why can't I say my name? We're posting this online. Literally anyone could see this. And my name is the most classified thing in this whole file. You know what? I don't care. Okay, sorry, I'm a bit short. But this case is just really frustrating to me, particularly because it reminded me a lot of my old job. For those who don't know, which should be all of you, my old job was tracking down and fighting supervillains and some heroes that got on the wrong side of things. And this job was fun, because superheroes don't run on electricity. That means a quick EMP would be enough to stop them. When you're fighting a mech armor, 90% of the time, it's just one quick EMP and then the fight's over. It's very boring, was what I was trying to say. So, I actually got excited for once when I heard there was a new form of Mech Armors that ran off of moonlight. Now, some of you scientifically minded people in the audience might be saying, wait a minute, isn't moonlight literally just sunlight? And I'd be going, yes, but we'll explain why they don't just use sunlight in a minute. But first, we'll talk about the guy who made all of these dark armors, as we called them. Stupid name. Dr. Victor Frankenstein. He's not really much to talk about, but what is to talk about is his first armor that we came across. It sucked. I mean, it was a strong armor, but design-wise, it looked like it was scrapped together out of, like, 5 other armors that were just thrown together in a giant hodgepodge. And eventually, we did manage to defeat it, when we figured out that the armor very easily overheated. But not only did it... But when we figured out that it overheated easily, one of the people on my team decided to set it on fire. Because clearly that was the best solution that we had to the problem, was set it on fire. Surprisingly, this worked, but it also killed the guy inside. And also, one idiot decided to call the guy inside Frankenstein, which obviously was an issue when we were trying to track down the real Frankenstein, because half the people thought this armor was him and that we had already killed him. Newsflash, different guy entirely. But now half the world media will say that Frankenstein is dead, which, by the way, makes it so much harder to find a person if they're dead. The next armor was probably the most powerful out of the group, and that may have been because of who it was for. Vlad Dracula was a Romanian dictator who tried to get his subjects in line by, killing them, and using the dead ones as an example to the others of what happens if they cross him. Obviously, this is highly illegal in most countries, except for maybe Florida. I'm kidding, Florida's a state, obviously. That was a bad joke. Anyway. Sorry, I got distracted by the bad joke. Anyway. We eventually managed to track this guy down, only to figure out that this was indeed another dark armor. Now, all of these dark armors, except for the first one, had some kind of backup power source to them. Whether it be the electricity one, like the Frankenstein's mech, or the one, or a weird potion, like we'll see later. This one just ran off blood. You might be questioning how something can even run off blood, and I don't know, and I really don't want to get into that, so I won't. We eventually found him, and also found But the main device that powered the whole blood transforming into power thing was, right in the middle of his chest. Which seems like an odd place to put that. Like, you have this one weakness and you put it right in the front of your body, where literally everyone will be aiming anyways. He's like, why would you put it there? Yeah. Anyway. But after I took a wooden stick and stabbed this section, causing many parts of the armor to fail, it still managed to function barely. Now, remember when I said earlier that these things used moonlight instead of sunlight, despite them being the same thing? Well, that's because if these things get too much energy into them, they just explode. They just kind of explode if they get too much of energy into them. And sunlight is literally just moonlight, but more of it. So, after the fight went on till morning, because this thing took 12 hours to do, the sun got onto the armor, and the armor exploded. The dude obviously died. Which means that we still have no information on where Frankenstein is. However, I did get a really cool wrist blade out of it that I stole from the corpse. So, I probably shouldn't have said that out loud. So, do you remember how I said earlier that all of these ran off some backup power source because of, how the moon is a really unreliable power source? This is the reason why the moon is a terrible power source. Basically, this one guy named Talbot asks, actually first he kills this one guy who has this armor. But then, after he kills the guy, he decides to take his armor and use it for himself. Unaware of how the armor actually works. So he was just kind of trying to use it, but the thing was, it was a dark armor, and this one did not have a backup power source. Which meant, if you tried to use it any time during the day, it's nothing more than a really good-looking statue. But then it gets worse. Turns out, moonlight, not only is it a completely impractical source of power, it's also a fairly weak one, which is another reason for having to have the backup power system. Because of this, he could only go out and use it during a full moon. Which meant he could pretty much only use his armor for like a night per month. This is a terrible design. Who thought of this? It's like, this isn't threatening in the slightest. I only have to fight it, like, every month. And, like, during a blue moon, maybe I might have to deal with it twice a month. Anyway. Eventually, we managed to track this guy down. And, well, while we were fighting him, a cloud went over the moon. Now, because of this, the suit then stopped working. This gave us the opportunity to go and, capture him. We got him out of the suit before it could work again, and then the sun came up and it exploded. Yeah, good thing we got him out of that suit first, to be honest. Although, to be even more honest, I wasn't exactly convinced we should have gotten him out of the suit, but you know what I mean. Anyway, we took the guy in and asked him for some, interrogational questions. Obviously, however, he did not know where Frankenstein is, due to the fact that he kind of stole the mech armor off somebody else. However, he did know exactly where one person was that we had indeed been looking for a while, and didn't know his exact base of locations until right now. So, this whole thing wasn't a total bust. It was only like a little bit of a bust. Now, the man that the wolf mech, as he called himself, very lamely, I might add, was a man we'd been searching for quite some time now, but have not been able to find, for obvious reasons. His name was Dr. Griffin, and he was a brilliant chemist who had managed to create his own paint that could turn things completely invisible. However, he did not have the proper engineering skills to actually be able to build his own mech armor. This is why he teamed up with Dr. Frankenstein to build this one. I do have to have some respect for a man who builds his own superpower instead of just buying it from a store, but all that respect was immediately lost when he started going on a mass murder spree. They started with small murders here and there, and originally we did indeed think this was the work of a supervillain, due to the fact that it was an invisible man. I mean, up till now, no mech armors were able to turn invisible. This was the first. Yes, but eventually this did garner our attention when not only did something beep on a metal detector out of literal nowhere, but also that same day, a train station was hijacked and rigged and crashed, killing 100 people. This was the highest death count we'd ever faced, and this obviously gave us reason to attack. However, for obvious reasons, we could not find him, and so he got away free. Until the wolf mech gave us the information. We tracked him down to this creepy old mansion place, where we knew he was because we could hear his voice. But we still couldn't see him. And then suddenly, during the fight, some weird smoke filled the room. The smoke that latched onto the paint and was somehow able to make us able to see him. Well, we couldn't see the full armor. We could only see like a gaseous mist moving around, but that was enough for us to be able to catch him and defeat him. However, the smoke did not come from us, and for a while we thought we'd never know where the smoke came from, until one day a man walked into our office, saying that he'd also been looking for some of these mech armors for some time. He introduced himself as Abraham Van Helsing.